The fallout continues from former President Donald Trump's historic criminal conviction. Over the weekend, he urged the Supreme Court to intervene. Taking a quick look at CBS News polls since that verdict came out, 57% of those surveyed believe the jury reached the right decision, the right verdict in the hush money case. That breaks down to 96% of Democrats and just 4% of Republicans. Among those who say it was the wrong verdict, 90% believe the trial was politically motivated. Meanwhile, jury selection has begun in Hunter Biden's trial in Delaware. Joining us now to discuss it all is David Dulio, professor and director of Oakland University's Center for Civic Engagement. David, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you, Shayna.
You as well. So what do you think of those early poll results? And it is very early. We still have a long ways to go before the election this fall, but that public sentiment is telling. It's pretty much just breaking down along party lines.
It is very much breaking down along party lines, and I think that you rightly point out that this is one poll very early on in the aftermath of the verdict, and I think that for us to really get a handle on what this means for campaign 2024, we're going to have to wait a couple of weeks, couple of months to see how it settles, to see how it resonates with the public, and I think that you're likely to see a couple of different dynamics play out. Number one, I think you're going to see some folks, even among Republicans, who say, okay, Trump's convicted, I just can't vote for him anymore, and he's going to lose some support in some corners of the electorate. But at the same time, I think you're going to see another element of the Republican Party really energized, and you're going to see enthusiasm to vote for Donald Trump increase among some Republicans who may have been on the fence about whether or not they were going to participate or whether or not they were going to vote for Trump or somebody else.
Yeah, so what do you make of the former president calling on the Supreme Court Sunday? He did this over the weekend, asking them to intervene. I mean, we knew he was going to appeal, so is that inevitable anyway, or is it a bigger deal than that?
I think this is one of the things that is so fascinating about this whole saga, really, is what kind of appeal process do we see? I'm no attorney, so we would need somebody who knows about procedure and that sort of thing. But he's going to appeal it. How long does that take? Does it overlap, or how much does it overlap with the sentencing that's coming in July? Can the Supreme Court fast track this? Would they even consider it, given the implications for this presidential election? So many unknowns are there about this, because like so many other aspects of this presidential election cycle, we've never seen this before.
Yeah, I mean, can we say, though, that this might be a more likely Supreme Court to consider it than previous ones? I mean, it seems there has been a significant politicization of the Supreme Court in recent years, recent months, a lot of different headlines that kind of make it seem like a nonpartisan judiciary is a thing of the past.
Well, I think that's those are the elements of the Supreme Court that get the headlines, right? What we don't see are the vast majority of Supreme Court cases this term will have been decided 9-0 or 8-1, and only a handful of them actually fall along that 6-3 partisan split. So, I think one clue about this is going to be what happens in this January 6th case over immunity that the Supreme Court is going to have to decide. And again, that might just give us a little bit of a clue as to what they might do if this gets to them, or if they're asked to fast track this kind of case.
Right. And some time before we see how that all plays out. A lot has been made over Donald Trump's sentencing coming just 4 days before the Republican National Convention. I mean, is there any world that you imagine they go in a different direction? We know how that's going to play out, right?
Yeah, I think the chances are slim. As you know, never say never in politics. So is it completely out of the question? No. But at the same time, the Republican Party is likely, as I mentioned before, going to rally around Donald Trump, I think, in the coming weeks and months, and I think you're going to see him go into the convention having gone through that sentencing phase, a very strong candidate on the Republican side with a lot of energy behind him.
All right, let's make sure we talk about Hunter Biden here. The jury now seated in his trial in Delaware. Also a historic trial for very different reasons. What potential do you think there is for this trial to impact his father's reelection campaign?
Well, I think the main impact for the Biden campaign is that it's going to be a distraction, right? They're going to have to talk about this when they don't want to talk about it, right? They're going to have to confront questions about Hunter Biden and this trial, as well as other things that he's accused of, and other allegations that have been made against him. And for a political candidate, whenever they're not talking about their campaign message, right, talking to voters about why Joe Biden should be president instead of Donald Trump, it's a distraction and they're off message, and that's not where they want to be.
Yeah. Do you think on public sentiment, though, it can really have much of an impact, or do people pretty much have their minds made up? Is this another party line divide?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think to a large extent, public opinion about both candidates, trials or no trials, accusations or no accusations. Public opinion is baked in about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. People know what they think about these two candidates, good or bad. And I think it's really, this election, especially in a state like Michigan, is going to come down to voter turnout, who can energize their supporters the most and get them out to the polls.
Yeah, it all feels like deja vu, and yet we don't know how this year will go. David Dulio, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.